Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to today's session. Good. Okay, we'll get started. So, as usual, what we're gonna do is to run through the overall of the week. Okay, highlight some of the opportunities that are worth noting. Then we'll have a quick Q&A, and of course after that, I'll be sharing with you some of the upcoming events for November. Okay. So quick disclaimer, of course, everything that we're covering today, purely for educational purposes, and trading and investing involve risk, so just make sure you're aware of it. Okay. So quick one, let's take a look at the calendar over here. Okay, so this week is gonna be quite an eventful one, right? Tomorrow we do have the Bank of Japan coming in. So Bank of Japan has been hinting quite a bit building into tomorrow's event that they're definitely not happy with the yen being so weak, and they're considering shifting their monetary policy or even having some kind of like bank intervention, right? So that's something to be cautious on. Okay, if the Bank of Japan decides to do either of it, or maybe potentially both, we're gonna start seeing the yen actually start reversing, right? I mean, the yen has been weakening quite significantly throughout this year. So moving forward, okay, going into some of this BOJ monetary policy event, you want to be very, very careful because, again, my personal experience is that the Bank of Japan likes to throw surprises, okay? Um, so yeah, sometimes, you don't expect it, and then suddenly they just announce something, and then it creates a huge volatility in the market, especially in terms of yen. That's something quite common. Okay, so just be very, very prepared if you're trading anything related to JPY. Be aware of the volatility coming in. Okay, so my personal take whenever I approach such an event here is always like to let the event take place first. Anyway, it's tentative. It's very hard for us to determine what time is going to be coming out. It's very hard for us to prepare to trade that particular news anyway. So I always like to just let it happen. Then only we look at the charts again, post event, and we'll then trade the next wave. Okay, so I don't need to write on the very, very first move, but I'll let it happen. Okay, get some kind of like alignment, some kind of confirmation before we commit to the yen trade. Okay, so that's on tomorrow, and then we have another one coming in. Depending on where you are, Thursday early morning or Wednesday kind of midnight, where we have the FOMC. Okay, so over here this time round, the expected forecast is the Fed is going to maintain rates, but there's a good possibility we may see a surprise hike, right? But I think the chance of it is not very high. Fed has been noting that oftentimes they are looking at November hike one more time, to actually have it at the peak, and then next year likely looking at cutting it. Okay, the Fed is likely at a very, very complex and difficult environment also because at one point in time we're talking about potential recession, but then the latest U.S. economy data seems to suggest otherwise, right? The U.S. economy seems to be quite resilient, which allows the Fed to actually maintain interest rate at a slightly higher rates for some time before even consider cutting. And then at the same time, they still need to tackle inflation. So it's not so straightforward in terms of like where we are right now. Okay, so definitely you want to keep track on what is the latest updates from the Fed as well. Okay, so that's an event that definitely you want to pay attention to. And then evening, we have the Bank of England. Okay, so Bank of England over here, we're expecting the rates to also maintain. But you can see that the expected votes, okay, will be changing. So what this means is that, again, from my point of view, is the inflation in the UK is still relatively high, and I don't think 5.25 is gonna be the peak of the interest rate, right? I think that Bank of England would likely hike it, one or two more times, eventually. Okay, so do take note of the Thursday event as well. We may get a surprise, okay, potentially. So just be aware, right? If you're trading pound related, take note mentally that Thursday we have this important data, important event coming in. So that might create some kind of volatility. Okay, and to end off the week on Friday is the first Friday of the month in November. So we would have the NFP as well at the same time the Canadian labor market data, right? So if you are more towards kind of like news trade, right, then naturally, of course, Friday would be the focus. Okay, you would have Canadian related news that you can trade, as well as the NFP, which is the dollar related. Okay, so those are the overall, I think, more significant events. Okay, and it's not short of event, right? We have tomorrow the Bank of Japan. Then following that, we have the Fed, we have the Bank of England, and then we have the NFP and the Canadian labor market. Okay. Good. So with that said, there are some opportunities I'm personally looking out for as well. Okay. We'll just start off with the dollar index to give you an overview first. Okay. So dollar index over here, you can see basically we are looking at a pattern where it seems to be suggesting an impulse correction right now. So if that's going to be the case, then of course we are expecting one more pushback up to retest the top, right? Potentially that's going to be the case, and that means short term we may see a little bit of a dollar strength potentially going into like 107.35. Okay, and of course if you're gonna look for any buy trade, then that will be the target to look up for. I don't think you want to go for too far and extend the target, unless price is able to break through this impulsively. Then maybe you can look for another entry sort of. But my personal take is any buy trade here, you want to definitely look into more of a slightly towards the shorter term. Okay, and if you can hit the area around 107.35, you probably want to just take profit and look at the next trade after that. Okay, so do look up for it. So if the dollar is gonna strengthen, then that's where I'm looking at the euro. Okay, so euro dollar actually did push up towards the area of interest today. Okay, but again, Monday market usually I don't like to kind of execute trades. So what I'll do over here is tomorrow. Okay, perhaps tomorrow morning Asian session, building into the London market. If we can get an hourly crawl, right? So we kind of have a H4 entering the 50 and 6-minute pullback. From a larger picture perspective, we have this three-wave move. We have the first impulse drop. This seems pretty corrective for now. So what I want to see is on the hourly. Okay, if I can get a decent crawl pattern here on the hourly, that would be a very nice little sell trade potential for tomorrow building in. Okay. Of course, if I look into the hourly, if kind of take the fits from the hourly in terms of the tree wave, right? You can see the tree wave is pretty neat as well. We have a little bit of slightly upside potential over here, which is great, right? I mean, that would then also build in, just now we have that fit of a 61.8, right? So we have some cluster of fits over here, okay? So let me just take that. Then the alignment, as I mentioned, is if you can see a H1 crawl, okay, that would be definitely a nice little sell trade with the breakout entry technique to the downside. Okay, and that would also complete a very nice little three wave pattern over here. Let me just put in a little bit of a drawing. Okay, I mean, channel is not perfect, but that's the rough idea of it. Okay, so going back to the 4-hour, let me clean up a little bit of all this drawing here. Okay, that's what we're looking out for. And of course, euro dollar may build us in, if it's not tomorrow, then likely maybe on Wednesday, we'll get something. Okay, so given if we can get the H1 crawl as a confirmation, then that will be a very nice little trade. To the downside, somewhere around 1.0450, right? So it's not like a major move kind of trade, right? It's kind of a pretty, I would say, relative short term, okay, where we're looking at maybe, if this is going to work out, probably a couple of days straight, okay? So it's not going to be like a major swing kind of move. So that's on euro, okay? Definitely one of the top pairs to pay a little bit more attention going forward, okay? GBP USD, I would be a little bit more patient here. Again, there are a couple of variations in terms of how the pattern can play out, but I'm not too keen to sell in terms of what we're seeing right now. I mean, there's a good chance this may still come down a little bit, but if this is going to be more of a crawl pattern, then I would be more interested to see as a double bottom potential with a buy trade. Okay, so I'm giving it more time. Okay, especially we again have the Bank of England coming on Thursday, so we'll see. Okay, so GBP USD will probably need to wait a little bit more. Aussie dollar here is a bit on the neutral side of things because price has been bouncing up and down within this contracting kind of like pattern. We don't really get any sign of clarity at the moment yet. Okay, now what I would ideally want to see is from here we kind of get a corrective development. Then that will be a very nice opportunity to look for the breakout, not only from this impulse correction pattern, but also potentially from this trend line structure. Okay. This one here, you probably need to be a little bit more patient. It might build in going into NFP. It might be a potential setup maybe even next week. Okay, so not so soon. Yeah, so just probably want to wait out a bit. Okay. The other one is the dollar Canadian. Right, so from dollar Canadian perspective, I'm interested more in the downside. Okay, we are technically in an uptrend. We have a high, low kind of things. But from my perspective is we may have completed this upside and I'm not too keen to be buying at the top here, right? So I'm looking to sell, but right now I don't have a sell setup yet. Okay, so what would build into a sell setup is a impulse move to the downside, ideally breaking off this kind of level here. Okay, impulsive break, and then following that a corrective move that will give me a decent sell trade, and I'll be very interested to take this trade down. Okay, because on a high time frame, okay, we have a huge downside possibility, and for price to actually move, right? Profit potential to the downside is bigger than potentially riding it to the upside in terms of like where we are right now. Okay, you can see this zone here. The market is currently reacting off it. Okay, so not too keen on the buy, more interested in the sell, but we'll need to wait a little bit more to get some kind of a confirmation before we kind of commit to the sell trade. Okay, so you can see the one that I'm tagging it is something that I'll pay a little bit more attention, and of course some of this here, while it may build into something, I'm not paying too much attention at the moment until I get some clarity of it. Okay. Dollar yen here, we did get a little bit of reaction around that 150.67 area, right? Again, very nice little fib extension. But it's a bit too early, as I mentioned, to sell the dollar yen, right? I mean, we've been highlighting this pair for a couple of weeks, saying that, and in terms of where we are right now, buying it up may not be very, very interesting. I'll be rather interested to look for a sell trade. Okay. But so far, I don't get any sign of a confirmation of a sell setup yet. I would say I would want to see a pretty impulsive break, to really clear off some of this level here. Then a nice little corrective setup before really committing to the sell. But once we get some clarity from the market that it wants to start falling, okay, perhaps some catalyst from Bank of Japan, it can be, from the risk sentiment market perspective, potentially another war outbreak and things like that, causes the market to enter into a risk-off environment. If that starts to open up the possibility of this really coming down, that would be pretty massive, okay? Because there are definitely some key areas to target, okay? But you can see from where we are to like even this area here, that's massive profit potential. Okay, so I'm actually paying very, very close attention to dollar yen, but right now I don't see anything yet, right? So this is against, from my processes, is we always want to identify where are the great opportunities, okay, but at the same time I want to wait for the setup that allows me to take the trade, right? A great opportunity does not necessarily mean you immediately jump in, because if you get in not at the optimum timing, sometimes you can incur some losses first, or sometimes you might need to hold through that trade with certain drawdowns, and it's going to affect your entire psychology and emotions, right? So for me, it's more of like waiting for the right setup, right time to pull the trigger, and ideally I want that trade, to immediately move in the direction that I want in the shortest time possible, right? Then I manage a profitable position is way easier than managing a drawdown. Okay, so that's the thought process that I always have when I look at trades. Okay, so this here, some of it, as I mentioned, you just need to be a bit patient. Okay, same thing here with gold, right? Gold have a massive run. Okay, but I think right now you don't want to be buying it yet. There's no reason to be selling it. I'm bullish on gold. Okay, whether it's it mid-term to long-term, I think gold here you definitely want to look for upside. But for us to get involved in another buy position, I would personally want to wait for a pullback first. Okay, there's no reason to be buying at the top, right? And especially after the market have put in a massive run, the minimum expectation of a pullback here is back towards somewhere around this zone at 1950. Okay, I mean it may even come down a little bit lower, but the minimum I'm gonna look out for a potential buy is somewhere around 1950. Wait for a setup to get involved in the buy trade. Okay, so this may not be a trade this week. Okay, and that's the reason why I don't have that tap. Okay, crude oil is something that I'll be interested in if I can get another little push back up. Okay, towards like $88 range. That's where I'll be looking for a sell. Okay, this is a very simple pattern, right? Impulse correction. If we can get again an hourly crawl here, that would be nice. Little sell trade to the downside. Something similar to this, right? So we kind of wrote this down. We kind of exited somewhere there with a trailing stop, and it's always great to just take profit and then not hold through any position when the market is basically doing a consolidation. Okay, because again, as I mentioned, when you're holding on to a trade, psychologically, you need to spend some effort there, right? So you don't want to be kind of locked into that. Okay, so that's the crude oil trade, right? So this week here, if you can get another pushback towards 88 range, okay, that will be a potential setup. Okay, S&P, okay, we're kind of getting a little bit of bounce here. So again, you can see we're bottom of the channel right now. There's no reason to be selling. Okay, yes, we did get that drop. But again, you don't want to always just sell when the market is falling or buy when the market is going, right? You always want to follow a certain pattern, right? You need to have a very clear steps and processes. Like for us, we always look at what is the pattern doing, okay? Because the pattern gives us some clue moving forward where would price likely go, okay? So this kind of pattern over here, you can see is a little bit of a crawlish pattern. Of course, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then some alignment over here. You can see parallel channel hitting the bottom of it. So there's no reason to be selling. But you can see the drawing here is I'm expecting the pushback, right? But that doesn't mean you just buy it now. Again, you need to wait for a setup, right? So what is a setup for me is if I'm very aggressive, okay, that level here will be a breakout trade. But sometimes, putting another layer, which I always refer to as context, you need to then give a good balance, like when to be more aggressive, when to be more conservative. Okay, so for me on S&P, right, I'm actually going to be more conservative and we want to see a break first, an impulsive break, following that a correction before I get involved in the trade on the buy side. Okay, now why am I a little bit more conservative on this is because from a technical point of view, the market is coming down. And we are trying to catch a reversal here, right? A major reversal. So I'm definitely going to be more conservative. Just the same reason as dollar yen has been going up. We're trying to catch the reversal of things on a major scale. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative. Now, another perspective, of course, is if the Fed is likely going to continue to raise rate, there's a good chance the equities market may continue to see a little bit more downside or even range a little bit. Simply because from a macro perspective, if the Fed is hiking rates or we're in a high interest rate environment, equities market may not benefit the most. Okay? So with this multiple factors, I'm actually a little bit more conservative in the buy after this major drop. Okay, but I'm keeping a close watch, right? Because if closer towards maybe Thursday or Friday, if you can get a setup, as I mentioned, a break and then a correction, if I can get a setup like this, maybe closer towards Friday, that may still be a pretty decent buy opportunity going forward. Okay, so I'm keeping watch, waiting for the setup that I want to see. Then we have the pound yen. Okay, so pound yen kind of like did a bounce today, which we kind of expected to come back down and have some reaction. It did bounce off pretty neat. Okay, depending again on whether you actually look at it from this angle here, as a breakout. But again, for me, Monday, I don't take trades, right? So this is not something that I've actually taken. But doesn't mean that we miss it and we need to be buying it. No, right? I mean, don't get into FOMO state, right? Like the fear of missing out. Of course, what I'll be seeing here is, okay, if the market indeed has bounced and it wants to go higher, we may get our second opportunity to jump into the trade if we can get a corrective setup here. Okay, so this might build in maybe tomorrow, right? If you can get that impulse correction on the hourly, then that would be also a buy trade to the upside. Okay, so GBP JPY is another one that I would say do pay attention to it, because if you can get that setup to come in, the upside here may be quite interesting to watch. Okay, of course we may have our first target here around the top of the channel, and then the second target will be all the way at the top at 186.80. Okay, so the upside is definitely there. Okay, so GBP JPY, definitely looking into that. Okay, Euro Pound is pushing up a little bit. We are bullish overall, but again, I will always want to see a clear three-wave development first. Okay, so we may be we may need to be a little bit more patient here if you're interested to trade this. Okay, I would personally suggest and wait to see if you can get a push down back towards the area around 8680 before really looking for the buy setup. Okay, yeah, so that's my take on it, right? So you can see over here we have this one move down, one move up, and ideally we want to see this move down, right, to complete it. 1 2 3, then that's the area to look for a buy. Okay, so that's on Euro Pound. Aussie Yen, I'm just basically neutral. You can see this is like consolidating within this range. Trading within here is just not going to be easy, so for me, just avoid this, right? Pound odd is coming down, so we kind of had a little bit of bounce, and then this is just basically coming down relatively fast, right? So that's always important to wait for the confirmation of an impulse correction before you commit to any trade. We don't get that, we get a V, so there's no trade. And I'm neutral on this because we need to give more time and see how the market is going to eventually play out. So nothing much on the pound odd. Okay, then we have BTC. BTC actually had a massive run, and then right now it's doing a little bit of consolidation at the top. I would say again, give it a bit more time before committing to another buy. Again, this is like the minimum area, right? It doesn't mean that you just want to buy it there, because if this drops fast, okay, then you need to be careful, because this entire piece can build into a bigger correction before the move out. Okay, so you realize that I'm not really paying very close attention to BTC this week, because we just want to give it more time. Okay, so quick summary to kind of like cover a little bit, summarize a little bit of what we've mentioned so far. For me, the main focus, based on what we have at the start of this week here, is going to be Euro Dollar. Okay, potentially looking for the sell if we can get an hourly crawl. Crude oil here as well, potential sell if you can get the price to go back towards 88 zone, and of course get a decent correction crawl pattern up there as well. S&P, we are looking at potential bounce. Okay, but this one I'm going to be a bit more conservative, wait for the market to give us more confirmation first. Okay, and pound yen here, we're looking for upside if you can get a setup on the lower time frame, perhaps by tomorrow or even Wednesday. Right? Okay, good. I see some questions, right? So I'm gonna answer some questions over here, and then I'll actually share with you and update you, in terms of like what are some of the upcoming events that we have in November. Okay, so I think first question I see here is from MR. MR is asking, Aussie dollar suggests potential buy settle on daily, probably going into next year. Currently we have a crawl developing on the daily time frame. Yeah, okay, so I mean, if you're looking at that, okay, you're not wrong. Okay, basically that's the crawl, right, on the daily scale, which kind of align with what I've covered on the H4, right? H4 here, okay, you can see I kind of mentioned that this is the area that keep bouncing. It's a very, very slow move, and we're interested in upside, right? So same thing, if you're entering trades on the higher time frame like daily, you're gonna have a very wide stop loss. Okay, now I'll give you some example over here, right? Suppose if you're gonna just take the breakout on the daily scale, Okay, your stop from this perspective would need to go, below that recent low, right? That will put you about like 140 pip of stop, which is not too terrible. Okay, but imagine you just target the next high here, right? Okay, let's just put hypothetically that would be a rough estimate of a target. Okay, now I just take this high, right? This double top high here. So you can see your risk reward on this particular trade, if you just base on a daily scale to look for trade, is gonna be about 3.5 risk to reward ratio. Okay, now let me give you another perspective. If today I can go down to maybe the hourly, let's just say that, okay, or even the 4 hour, right? Just play around with 4 hour. And let's say I wait for the pullback, I'm able to get involved in a trade somewhere maybe around like 6325, and then my stop is just below that low. And I'm gonna look at a target that is the same. Okay. Now I just want you to see, right? Just by reducing my stop a little bit, the risk to reward ratio can actually increase drastically, right? Just now it was 3.5. It more than doubled. Alright. So that's the beauty about playing around with multiple time frames, to increase a little bit in terms of the precision of the entry, so that you can actually reduce your stop loss with. Okay, of course, you don't want to overdo it, because if you overdo it, then you run the risk where you get in, your stop loss is too tight, you get tagged out, and then the market move, right? So you need to have a good balance. Okay. But of course, multi-time frame is important because it gives you various perspective as well, right? As I mentioned, on the daily, the pattern seems to suggest upside. On a 4 hour, it seems to be supporting the case as well. Okay, we have a couple of bounce here, so we're definitely looking at the upside. On the hourly, we get that bounce. Okay, and all I need, as I mentioned, right, all I'm looking out for right now is a decent correction, and that will build in the buy setup for me, right? So I think Emma here is right? We're basically looking at the upside, and the upside potential can be quite huge on Aussie dollar. All right, so I hope that helps. Okay. Jimmy asks what happened to the old class kind of assets. Okay, maybe I need a little bit more information from you. What I would suggest is you can drop me an email. Okay, then I'll be able to understand a little bit more like what you're referring to, and then I'll be able to assist you from there on. Okay, good. So other than that, let's just do a very quick scan on some other commodity. Some other index. Let's just look at German DAX. Okay, the German DAX may give something here for those of you interested in index, so we have that zone, right? You can see that's where highlighted on the daily. We are seeing a little bit of a crawlish structure development right now on the H4. Definitely a divergence building up, right? So there's a good possibility you may get a potential buy on the German DAX. Okay. Yeah. So if you can get a buy trade on German DAX, the upside can be quite rewarding as well, right? I mean, these are the areas that you potentially can pay a little bit more attention to, which will give you that target zone. Okay. So on the daily, that's how it looks like. Okay. We have some previous areas. We have the pattern there. So definitely you want to focus a little bit more on the upside. Okay. And then zooming in on the lower time frame H4. You can be a little bit patient, see if you can get another push down to give you that crawl structure, right? Oftentimes it's going to give you that 3 touch at the bottom. Then look for the breakout trade in terms of the crawl setup. Okay, so that's on the German DAX. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so those are some of the things that I'm looking out for, right? Hopefully can give you some ideas on what you can focus for the week. Okay. Good. Okay, so yeah, before we kind of conclude the session for today, just very quickly update you on 2 upcoming events that we're gonna have. Okay, for November. I'll actually put it down for you over here, right? Now the first one is gonna be this coming Saturday, so that would fall on the 4th of November. Okay, it's a physical event, right? So this one here is actually not me speaking, okay, but it's from the speaker Daniel, who has like decades of experience in market. He'll be sharing with you about moving forward, right, from a macro picture perspective as well. So the workshop is going to start from 3 p.m. to somewhere around 5 to 6 p.m. Okay, now it's a physical event, so basically you need to be physically in Malaysia. Okay, so this event is going to be at Amardar Hotel at PJ. Okay, now we may concurrently stream it in Zoom. Okay, but this one here of course depend on the decision from the team. So if you're really interested in this, okay, what I would suggest is drop a message, a WhatsApp message to the team. So if you're watching it on Zoom right now, okay, there will be the link in the chat. You can click it, it will link you to WhatsApp. Okay, if you're watching it on YouTube, right, then just go to the description box below. There's a WhatsApp link as well. Okay, so WhatsApp the team and let them know that you're interested in it. Whether you are physically joining us, right, you need to RSVP, or if you're not based in Malaysia, not based in KL and PJ, right, you'd like to just join in online, do let them know as well, because you will need to also get the Zoom link, right, if they're gonna stream it online. Okay, then we have another event that is from me. Okay, so that itself will be on the 26th of November. Okay, it will be a Sunday. So that's me. Okay, I'll be the one speaking. The timing here is the same as well, right? 3 to 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and it will be the same location. Okay, so what I'm gonna be speaking on the 26th of November is primarily sharing with you about algo trading. Okay, as well as how you need what are some of the factors you need to know if you want to use automation to help you execute and manage trades for you, right? Basically what we call robot trading, trade automation, algo trading, and to also share with you what PAM feature is. Okay, so that if you're interested in the EAs, you're interested in the robot, you can actually leverage on PAM to tag along, and then from there we just do a simple profit share. Okay, yeah, so there are 2 events that are confirmed in November. There are some more events that are still in planning stage. So once it's more or less confirmed, we'll actually update you guys along as well. Okay. Good. Last question I see before we conclude over here is about Euro Canadian, Euro Aught. Sorry, Euro Canadian, Euro Yen, and the CAD Yen. Okay. Okay, quick one. So Euro CAD basically continue to push higher. That's what we've expected. So completed that 3 wave. So oftentimes after a completion of a 3 wave, we do expect some kind of a pullback. Okay. The minimum expectation we always look out for is the pullback to go back towards that 50% of the entire move. Okay. So with that kind of expectation, right? Usually there are 2 ways to look out for trade if you're interested in the counter trend reversal. Okay. So what I would suggest, again, you can go down to the hourly. Okay, 2 ways to look out for things. One is the pattern of a crawl. Okay, if this develops a pattern of a crawl, you can trade the breakout, the reversal, short-term downside. You trade the reversal. The other one is it gives you a little bit of a double top-ish formation. Okay, not so much of a crawl, so you can't have an obvious neckline. Then you just trade the breakout of the neckline from there on. Okay, so either pattern will give you a valid sell setup. Okay, and the sell here is short term. Okay, you need to manage that a little bit more actively, of course. And you also want to look out for how price is going to move lower, right? Because ideally you want to drop fast, then a slow correction, and then you expect one more drop fast. However, if this is going to start to do just like that, right, it doesn't really drop fast, it just starts to do a bit more of a consolidation, then of course any sell trade my take is to just exit it, because this pattern suggests that it may not drop very low, and we may see another push up. Okay, so that's my take on Euro CAD, right? We're definitely in the key area. If you're interested in the counter trend, short-term retracement, that is a setup for you. Okay, Euro Yen. Okay, bear in mind we have the yen involved, which is happening tomorrow. So, this is not the best, right? So my take is Euro Yen, just avoid it, right? Very similar to odd yen. There's really no pattern there. Okay, the yen seems to be strengthening as of now, right? As we're speaking, the yen seems to be strengthening. Yeah, so something might be happening. Let me just do a very quick check and see if there's anything that's happening right now. Okay, so you can see again, that's what the Bank of Japan likes to do. Yeah, Bank of Japan to debate readjusting YCC on Tuesday, right? So yeah, so again, no plan news, but then they just decide to do something, and basically it's currently affecting the yen. Okay. So if you are not very comfortable with managing high volatility movement in markets, right? My personal take is just avoid the yen entirely for now. I mean, we're not short of opportunity, right? I'm personally actually not looking so much on the yen, right? We only have like one yen related, which is a pound yen. Okay, yeah, like dollar yen, I would just say just be patient. Okay, so the yen, just be careful, right? So euro yen, my take is really nothing is there. Okay, no clear pattern. Okay, cat yen, let me just relook at this a bit. Okay, if you want to be identifying opportunities, you probably want to wait for a crawl development here. Okay, but this is not the best place to be even trading a crawl, right? So a pattern itself is not sufficient. We always want to have context. Okay, it may go back up to complete this move, so you get an impulse, 3 move, then the drop. But it's not the best area to be looking for that buy. Okay, if you're really interested in the yen, dollar yen is definitely one pair you have it in your watch list. Euro yen, my take is this is just nothing is there. Really very difficult to maneuver. I mean, if the market is just basically doing this, it's very difficult for you to squeeze profit out of it anyway, right? So you don't want to pay attention on that. Pound yen is clean, right? You can see the pattern is clean. Okay, so if you're looking at yen pairs, I think dollar yen is definitely one. Pound yen is another one you can pay a little bit more attention to. Kiwi yen is actually better than the cat yen. Okay, because Kiwi yen is building this quite clearly right now. Okay, so I would say Kiwi yen may be a little bit cleaner as compared to the cat. Okay, the cat is not like the best, but Kiwi is building a little bit clearer structure pattern, right? And then the franc, usually we don't even touch it, right? The franc yen, nothing there. So I mean, the top 3 yen pairs, if you want to focus on the JPY, is the dollar yen, the pound yen, and the Kiwi yen. Okay, that 3 would be the top priority. Okay, yeah. So I hope that clears the question on that. Okay, so again, last one. Okay, just to remind you guys, for the upcoming events, if you're interested, do drop the team a simple WhatsApp message. Okay, if you want to find out a little bit more, feel free to reach out to them as well. They'll be able to get you fill you in with all the details. Okay, so that's all for me for today's session over here. Okay, all the best for your trading, and we'll see you guys in the next session. Okay, so see you guys. Bye bye.